today we have here with us Dr. Madhavi, who's a Ayurvedic doctor as well as, dancer. And I'm very keen to know more about her background and how she's doing both Ayurvedic practice as well as, dance. And I'm also keen to learn more about, Ayurvedic science, as a science. I have a lot of confusion, and many times I think, to my knowledge, I may be understanding a little more about Ayurvedic science, but I never went to an Ayurvedic doctor, I should admit. But I definitely respect the science, and I believe also there is definitely science behind that, and that's why many people are able to get a cure. And today we are very happy to have you, ma'am. Thank you for coming here, and over to you, ma'am, to share a little more insights and about your background. And since this is a career lecture series where we are trying to take this, inputs and guidance to a lot of students who are aspiring to get into Ayurveda and as a profession, and also we want to understand more about your background. How did you get into this, form of medicine, and what's your motivation? What was your motivation then? And we would be happy to learn more about you and your background today, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, at the very outset, I'd like to thank you people for having invited me here. I would love to share my experience of Ayurveda right from the early 90s. To answer the first question on what my motivation was to be a part of the Ayurvedic scenario. Back in the 90s, like when we had completed intermediate education, all of us, we did not have as many options as were available even in the 2000s, forget about right now. So that time I was considering doing dentistry. Of course, I had been in pure science, which is the BPC, as how it used to be called those days. So after that, of course, the biotechnology, microbiology, all these were sciences and the avenues that we were looking at. But then I also had a very deep love for the language Sanskrit. And I always felt that there was more to interpreting the language, and a lot of deep secrets hidden within the language which we have not been privy to. And I was very fascinated with the idea of Ayurveda after completing my 12th standard. And luckily we had a source, which is we had a relative who was a professor in Ayurveda, and with whom I could share a lot of interaction. And he gave me the prospects that Ayurvedic medical practitioners have in the future. And then I was very, very attracted to the idea of holistic medicine, primarily because I was a sick child. And I remember that beyond a certain point, the antibiotics or the medication I was taking as a baby, just like just a toddler, like at 3 or 4, were not helping me. I had a loss of appetite, I was underweight, I had a lot of other medical issues cropping up. I was not allowed to participate in sports. So there is a subjective angle to this whole thing. And then I was cured by alternative systems of medicine, with what we call alternative, which were mainstream before. And then I realized that if I were to prescribe something that has not had a complete effect on me, I would be a hypocrite. So I was very happy to explore something that had helped me as a child. So of course there was a combination of Ayurveda and homeopathy that had helped me as a child. And when Ayurveda was available to me in my own city here, I jumped at the chance, and then I went and gave it was a private entrance those days, because we didn't have government colleges in Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu, back then. Now we have a government college in Nagarkoil, that is the border of Tamil Nadu and Trivandrum and Kerala. So here, what happened actually was a very last minute decision. Of course, I wanted to be a part of the medical field in whichever capacity. But then I chose Ayurveda voluntarily, and I went and wrote a private entrance, and then I went through the entire rigmarole, because I felt I was embarking on something very significant. That is what I felt. My advice to people who are looking for a career option in Ayurveda is actually to opt for this, rather than it being something you get into because you did not score enough marks in NEET for MBBS or for BADS. Yes. What happens is I hear a lot of complaints. See, I have been a mentor, a professor, when I was teaching students, undergraduate students, and I have heard so many complaints that Ayurveda is not doing what it's supposed to for them. Most of them, even in the second year, they would be preparing for their next NEET entrance to see if they get another shot at getting into another course like again MBBS or VDS or something like that, which means there is already a reluctance to accept this as your first career option. And when that happens, you are not allowing knowledge to permeate. You are not going to see the brighter sides. You are not going to make the effort to appreciate whatever course you are getting into. Luckily, I didn't have that problem. So that is probably the reason why I am able to talk this way as compared to other people that you might find in this field. So my first suggestion would be to be very clear as to why you want to do Ayurveda. I wanted to do Ayurveda because of the fundamental reasons that were confirmed for me later on. Number one, it is eternal. Why is it eternal? Is it God? No, it is eternal because it's based on eternal concepts that do not change. For example, fire is hot, water is cold. I mean, is that going to change in another 1,000 years? It won't. So, a lot of people have called Ayurveda unscientific, right? We were also talking about that. So, what is science, right? If there repeatability, is there demonstrable effects that can be consistent? I mean, these are the simple qualifications of what can be constituted as a science or what can be defined as science. So, whatever has happened 2,000 years back, we are finding similar effects today. We are able to repeat the results. And maybe science is a very confining term for Ayurveda because Shastra is a very higher term. Okay, and that does not require to get updated because again, as I told you, they are not based on temporary effects that we see in the body. They are based on the humus. You must have heard about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Even modern medical science up to 400 years back, 500 years back had not believed in the concept of a microbe because it was not visible to the naked eye. Because there were no microscopes, because they did not believe there were organisms existent which the naked eye cannot see. Whereas we had this concept right in back in the 2000 years back, first century BC we had this concept, right? Second century BC, first century BC we had this concept of what was called Adrishya Krimi. It was classified as two. Whatever disease causing parasites might be, they said. And you know what the definition of that was? A very rough, loose translation I will try. It said that the Adrishya Krimi is not visible to the naked eye. It does not have arms and legs like the visible Krimi. It floats in body fluids like blood and it causes disease. I mean, what other better definition of a microbe can you have? And this is the reason why we had today we use sanitizers. Today we know what antimicrobials are. We know how you're supposed to do entire sanitation before. Forget about a surgery. Today we are so highly equipped that we carry our sanitizers around. We know that from touching something we can pick up an infection. These were so prevalent back then. That is the reason we were not allowed to walk in with our footwear from outside. We left them outside. I mean, we now, after the coronavirus, the pandemic, after that is when people realize that your shoes can pick up stuff, your hair can pick up stuff. Otherwise, people would just jump onto their beds, with their footwear on. We watched in movies, we've seen all that stuff. And so, a very, very basic thing about Ayurveda is that there were concepts which are not going to be outdated, always there, right? That doesn't mean there is no scope for research or development. You can be extremely creative with bringing things together as far as the principles of Ayurveda are intact. The principles are not going to change. You can do whatever you want within the framework of the principles. And that way, I don't think Ayurveda falls short of any definition of science. Maybe it is beyond it.
And to understand a little more, if I have to ask from students' perspective, most students look at a career or an education or a course from an economic standpoint. They all want to settle themselves in life and they also want to do a course which has a demand. So from a demand perspective, I want to understand a little more about how Ayurveda as a career, if they're getting into becoming an Ayurvedic doctor or doing a practice in Ayurveda. I'm sure, from my understanding, I'm sure there is a lot of need for people, but how do you see it going, and what is your experience in this in terms of how Ayurveda as a science is growing from a patient's point of view? Because today, all doctors get into medicine profession. They know that there are like thousands or lakhs of patients waiting for them. So the demand is very high, and India as a country, we don't have enough doctors. Still, we don't have, I would say majority of the villages don't have full MBBS doctors. It's all RMPs in most of the villages. So it's like, it's not wrong, but that's the state we are in today. But given this demand, so I'm sure there's a lot of scope for Ayurvedic science and the career in Ayurveda. What is your suggestion to students?
Actually, I'd like to differ with you by saying there are not enough doctors here, even MBBS doctors. You have to understand that the people who are graduating in India are not choosing to stay here, right? They would rather go for more lucrative options abroad. See, if only with an MBBS degree, a lot of people are not able to get jobs anywhere. Do you see MBBS graduates stopping there? The degree by itself has no value because you will just be a duty doctor somewhere, which is not a great option. Yeah. This is the reality, actually. This is the reality. And people, just because you can produce them in thousands, by the thousand every year, but they are not going to go to your villages and still serve them.
They're not there today. True.
So this is really not about supply versus demand at all. This is really about people choosing more lucrative options. It's not wrong. They are choosing to better their lives. They understand that they might meet a dead end if they want to go to a village and do service there. Right? So this is really not about that. Okay, now coming to the point of how lucrative Ayurveda is as an option. Now see, when I was growing up and when I was in my late teens and I chose Ayurveda as a profession, as a career, it was very dismal, the scenario. I was asked questions like, why I chose Ayurveda, is it a degree, is it a diploma, why do I need 5.5 years to study medicine like this? Because it was considered some kind of extended kitchen remedy, some kind of grandmother's recipe kind of thing. Because it was not, there was no awareness. I think one of the reasons we did not have sufficient awareness is because people who talk about education were in the cities. And the cities were still heavily influenced by the colonial rule. And we have not yet come out of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, true.
Right? But on paper we have, but I don't think we are out of the colonial rule. Whatever they said was good for us. Whatever they said was
whatever
bad.
They say is...
Exactly. So they said charcoal was bad, it is bad. Now they mix it in toothpaste and we have to accept it. So whatever happens is because the power mongers, they usually decide what is perceived to be right or wrong for various reasons. Let's not go into those reasons. But you have to understand that the public perception is heavily influenced by whatever information is allowed to be put out there. It might not necessarily be the truth. It might not be all-encompassing truth. It will only be a partial truth that is let out, which serves whichever purpose they were going for. Okay. So having said that, the scene, I'm coming back to how dismal it was in the late 80s and early 90s. The reason being, today the Central Council of Indian Medicine, which provides education for Ayurveda, it existed from 1971 to 2021. Now it has been changed into another one, which is the National Commission for the Indian Systems of Medicine. And this National Commission, the reason it has changed is because Ayurveda is really on the peak of its high wave right now. It's like a tidal wave. And why is that? It's only because the language of the marketing has changed, of whatever it used to be. Otherwise, we would still be talking about Ayurveda as something which is not relevant to today's society, or it is very ancient, or it doesn't cater to our modern day's needs. This is what we would be talking even now. The reason this tone has changed is because the West has taken a lot of interest in Ayurveda. They have tried to come to India and they have tried to patent turmeric, they have tried to patent tulsi, they have tried to patent drugs, and that is when Indians sat up and the educated Indians sat up and said, okay, what is there in this that they would want to come all the way here? We are going to them for better options, better standards of living. So what is it that they are seeing that's commercially viable? They know that the West is equivalent to success. They're not going to pursue something that gives them moksha, right? They're only going to pursue something that gives them commercial success. When there is commercial success being smelt out there, people will turn and look. And today, the interest in Ayurveda in the commercial market is only because of the validation from the Western society. Because people from Europe, they have come in hundreds to come and learn. Just like they have shown interest in yoga, just like they have shown interest in the Vedas and other aspects of India, ancient India, there has been a very, very high level of interest in the past 2 decades, which was not there when I was studying. That is the reason there is, from these questions, the questions have changed to when they hear I'm an Ayurvedic doctor, they say, oh, I have some knee pain, can you prescribe something? So the social relevance of Ayurveda is very high, especially among the educated. It's not yet permeated the villages.
Yeah, and I want to add to the discussion that we are going through now. During COVID, I heard a lot about Ayurveda. You should drink this combination of, herbs or whatever it is, and Corona will not do anything to you. So I want to, get some, insights from you on.
Again, that's a tall claim. I think we have to limit ourselves to what works on an individual. Because Ayurveda is tailor-made to the individual, and though there are general elixirs that people talk about, which work like a cure-all for everybody, there is no such thing as a prevention for everything or a cure for everything for every person. Each individual has a set of needs. You are biologically right now, as we spoke, there are so many enzymes that have changed in your body, so many cells that have died, so many that are being produced right now. You are not in a tranquil equilibrium state ever. As a human being, we are constantly changing. The processes are going on inside. Digestion is happening, respiration is happening. You're processing what I'm saying. Your nerves are burning out. They're being recreated. We don't know how many processes are at work. And this cannot be replicated in another human being there. So what you require right now might not be the exact dosage or the exact combination for another person. Yes, it is a given that there are common combinations which we have used very successfully on patients. Even when they had a very high viral, load, that's the common parlance, the load that was there. In medium, mild and moderate cases of corona, and some very severe cases of corona also have been handled by the Indian medical system very successfully. Unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of false claims went out there, maybe through social media, but the actual very, very validated claims, people did not care to advertise because they were afraid of being called again these quacks or frauds or anything that comes up. Every time there is a success story, as far as alternative medicine is concerned, people try to look for loopholes there. They say you are using metals and minerals, this cause kidney failure, liver failure, or you have not been properly researched, you have not been properly licensed. This kind of talk has been prevalent for a very long time. Are there quacks in the system of medicine? Yes. There are people who have no license to practice, who advertise themselves out there on TV channels, on social media. These are the people who are giving us a bad name, right? So, if you want to separate the people who are realists, the people who are authentic and honest in this, you will see that they will accept their limitations as far as the Ayurvedic system is concerned, because Ayurveda itself accepts its limitations and it says it's going through a constant process. As I told you, principles don't change, but you can keep updating. And it's also said in future you're going to come up with millions of diseases whose names are unknown today. You will have to name them. But then these principles of approaching the medical approach are not going to change. The medical approach is not going to change, which is why we feel equipped to handle any new disease, because we are reducing them to the perceptibles, whatever we can for sure categorize under our humors, and we know what tissue is depleted, we know what is overflowing, what is moving, what is steady, what is stable. This does not change. You can give them different names in modern day society, but the concepts are not going to change. And that is the reason why Ayurveda has been able to grapple with cancer, with HIV positive patients. We have been able to grapple with the coronavirus pretty successfully, which does not mean that a patient should not go for emergency treatment to a modern hospital. That is where we draw a line. When there is something that you can handle in a very holistic manner, you choose something that is very kind to your system, which is organic in nature. And there is a line where your body is in an emergency state where this system might not be equipped to handle it. And that is where you cannot be a fanatic and you will have to let go of the patient, you have to refer them. to a system which can handle it better, which was prevalent even in those days, because we are the country which gave surgery to modern medicine. I mean, which gave surgery to the world, not modern medicine. It was not even prevalent back then. Like 2000 years back, we have practiced rhinoplasty, we have done cataract surgery, we have done small organ transplants, because surgery was considered a part of Ayurveda, which is why the bachelor's Ayurvedic degree is called BMS. But then as I was discussing with you, the surgical part has been toned down today because of lack of anesthetics, not because those anesthetics that we used are not prevalent today. Today, they have been classified under the Narcotics Drugs Act, because those days we have not used them as narcotics. We have used them as sedatives, anesthetics, as numbing agents. The reason being that we were not afraid of the patients getting addicted to them, because they went through a very rigorous purification process. Like we would take 15 to 45 days purifying process, so that we will only make sure that this effect is there on the patient and the narcotic effect is not there. Nobody knows all these things. They have just classified everything under one category, and these drugs are still available to other systems of medicine. They are ingredients of other systems of medicine today too, but they're not available to Ayurvedic practitioners to use as anesthesia for a surgery. And this is something the government will have to look into if they want surgery to be mainstream Ayurveda as well. So this is really a policy issue, so we can't do anything about it right now.
Yeah, makes sense. And I also want to understand, since you talked about limitations, if you were to do a comparison, these are the 5 areas Ayurveda has a great, potential for cure. And I also believe, I also did some reading before I met you, so not too long, but just today I did some reading. So from my understanding, what I realize is Ayurveda is a form of healing where prevention is a lot more, I would say strong in Ayurveda, and I want to understand a little more from you in terms of comparison, where Ayurveda is great, like for a common man perspective, where allopathy or any other form of medicine is good for a like you said, right, surgery. You should go to a hospital and immediately if you want to.
There are surgeries which are very part of Ayurvedic field, which is like Sharasutra for anal fistula, for piles, for there is hemorrhoids. That even today they have better effects than the other prevalent surgical methods. But then people should not take just this one sentence. They should do their research, because there is a lot of discussion, there is a lot of theory behind this whole practice. So it is not that instead of giving you 5 areas of where Ayurveda works or is dominating the field, the medical field, I would like to put it like this, because when I was confused as a second year student, I had gone to a professor in Warangal, actually, when I had gone there for a private event. I had asked them, what is this constant conflict between allopathic medicine and alternative systems of medicine? Then he gave me an excellent example, which I keep using for the benefit of my students, for my patients, everyone. He said, see, when you are at war, right? When you're at war with another country, you will bring out your cannons. You are going to bring out your bombs. You will bring out everything that is not advocated for the safety of a country within, internally, usually. Okay, if there is a situation within this city which we cannot control, the police force is not able to control, we will bring in the army. Now, what is going to happen? There is going to be collateral damage. Right? If you are going to shoot a mosquito with a machine gun, the mosquito will die, but your house also is going to have holes in them. So you have to understand that emergency medicine, for which we are talking, very highly of, which is extremely important to save lives. There is no criticism of one system of medicine towards the other. We are supposed to be working together in tandem with each other instead of against each other, the way things are happening now. I don't think properly trained physicians have any conflict among themselves. They have a lot of mutual respect, because they understand their limitations and they know where they have left off is where the other person can pick up. So I don't think really elite physicians have this conflict, but the public has this kind of a perception that we are against each other or we criticize each other. It's not actually logical. It's not mature of us to do that. But since you asked for this clarification, so once the conflict is over, once you have saved your country, you have to save your life first. Save your country, right? Once you've saved it, then you again need a a system, right? You need a police force, you need law and order, you know everything. That is Ayurveda for you. So will you choose the army if the husband and wife is in conflict in a house? You won't, right? You will try to resolve it. You will do counseling. You will do this and that, and then you will go to the next level of involving the next level, and then you will go to the next level of involving the next, right? And it's only finally that you should be choosing war, right? When there is a war situation and saving the country or saving the life in this case is more important, you don't sit and have lectures that time. You do what is necessary to save the life of the patient. Then for rehabilitation, come back to your normal law and order situation. So if this gave me a lot of clarity, so I'm using his example, the professor's example here, this is not mine. But I thought it kind of put all my apprehensions and my doubts to rest. I think this is the approach. So instead of going by default to the mainstream, I think alternative medicine should be by default. Because you will be able to prevent a lot of disease from going into emergency or going into the kind of chronic stage that we are all not able to handle these days, right? And also what happens is that Ayurveda is being branded as very slow. That the effects are very slow because people take time to come here. For example, if a paralysis patient or a facial palsy patient is brought to us immediately after whatever blood pressure or whatever is controlled, whatever caused the state, right, of a paralytic state or whatever it is that the patient is undergoing, they are brought within the first 48 hours to us, and the first 1 week the treatment is done according to Ayurveda, you will see a lot of improvement. And that is the reason why all our Ayurvedic hospitals are flooded with usually neurological disorders or osteology. I think one of the main reasons why Ayurveda is being discussed so loudly today is because of its contribution to neurological disorders and also orthopedic disorders, especially the orthopedic medicine part, right? So instead of going for NSAIDs, what they call non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, if you go for Ayurveda, that is, you have to understand that Ayurveda works on a systemic level. It does not treat the individual in parts, right? So, and you will see a lot of broad spectrum drugs in Ayurveda. You will say, oh, the same drug is recommended in a digestive disorder. It's also recommended in a neurological disorder. It is also recommended in a phlegmatic disorder. What is this about? That is why people think it is very unscientific, right? So, you have to understand that harmony is only one state. You come from this extreme or from the top or from the bottom or from this way. Whichever way, going towards harmony is the same process. Right? For people to understand the concepts of Ayurveda, you have to understand what normalcy is. Right? Bringing something to normalcy is not so difficult, provided you have healthy habits. This is why I'm answering the second part of what you asked, the preventive medicine side. And the reason why Ayurveda is booming today is because of, unfortunately, Ayurvedic spas, wellness centers, resorts where Ayurveda is being peddled, a dime a dozen to foreign tourists and everything. I'm not saying it is wrong, or I'm not saying it's right either. I mean, at least it became a topic of conversation thanks to whatever happened. Medical tourism has been a big, boom because of Ayurveda, especially in states like Kerala, in Goa, in all, and the Andaman, Nicobar Islands, everywhere. But there are Ayurvedic doctors supervising these treatments. But you have to understand that 3 or 4 days of an NRI patient or a foreign tourist staying there is not going to turn their lives into the Ayurvedic method. It might give them a small taste of how they feel.
Better experience for 3 days.
Yes, and I'm saying Ayurveda is not about relaxation massages. Okay, that is what any spa can give you. Ayurvedic treatments, I mean, I'm putting it out there, can be very painful, can be very, very uncomfortable because they are not bothered about your rating, right? The rating you're giving them. They are bothered about what it does with your health. I think they want a thank you from your body systems, not from you orally, right? It is really not about customer satisfaction here. It is much more about educating the patient to take responsibility for his health. And that is why diet and lifestyle is such a huge part of the Ayurvedic therapy. You will not go to a doctor and expect him to tell you what to eat. And let me also clarify one thing here. The Ayurvedic medicine is not something that is going to go and fight with those foods inside. So they'll say, oh, I will not have Ayurvedic medicine because they talk about pathya. They talk about, you cannot have this medicine. They will ask me not to have my favorite fruits. You have to understand that your disease is not separate from what you ate.
Right.
You cannot separate from your body from what you eat. You are not a tube where you put food and water on top and it comes down there without touching anything else. Right? Your disease was caused because of what you ate. See, this is like addressing the cause. In Ayurveda, we say Nidana Parivajjanam, which means I'm talking much more about than a career prospect. I think I'm talking about the principles of Ayurveda right now, which is okay. So, Nidana Parivarjana means just first plug the hole, right? You stop, you arrest the causative reason, the etiology, the reason why you got this disease. So if the boat is sinking, you can't keep on, pouring the water out. First find the hole and plug it. Your diet or your lifestyle changes are plugging the hole. It makes sense. It's the most logical thing you should be doing. You cannot fight that logic and say, okay, give me some medicine, but I should be allowed to eat whatever I want. Okay, then don't expect results, no? Yeah. Have this medicine, do whatever you want, don't expect results. Or your results will be slowed down to a point where they might not matter anymore. If you want good results, you will have to change over because your body is listening to you. It's listening to how important it is to you. Right? If you don't want to prioritize it, it has no reason why it's going to prioritize you. And your mind is something else. See, the WHO had not even included the mind in their definition of health until 70s, 80s. Now they took the Ayurvedic definition and it's not just absence of disease. Finally, they have come to that. Health is not mere absence of disease. It's a state of well-being of the mind, of the spirit, of the body. And all these things have been incorporated later because you have to understand that because we didn't speak the prevalent language of the world, we were considered outdated and ancient. By the time people who were eloquent in the language of the world, which is English today, okay. So by the time people who were eloquent came and explained these concepts, it was quite late in the day for people to sit up and take notice because we do not update our principles every 5 years saying, okay, you can jog in place for 5 years and everybody kept jogging in their place for cardiac wellness. And then 5 years later they said, oh, this is the reason why people are having heart attacks. You should stop jogging in place because you are breathing the same oxygen. And then what happens to those people who followed instructions for 5 years? Right? So there is a limit to what you're calling scientific. Right? There is something called wisdom. Wisdom does not need to get updated. And this does not mean that Ayurveda has nothing to learn from other systems. We were so open-minded and so rich. We took and gave heavily to Unani medicine from the Middle East. We took from Chinese medicine. We gave to them. There were so many references in Ayurveda on where they had conferences. Greeks came to us. They shared their knowledge with us. I mean, they are the origin of allopathic medicine. So they came, they shared their knowledge, then they learned from us. There was no patenting. There was no reason, there was no necessity to put your name on everything. If you see our Vedas, I don't think anybody took any credit.
Yeah, there's no credit.
There is no credit required because they think wisdom is flowing. If you are channelized, you will catch that information. If you are not tuned to it, somebody else will catch that information for you. It does not belong to you. You will find it very funny that in Ayurveda, nobody is credited with creating anything. Even the preceptor, if you go to the mythology, the preceptor is considered Brahma, right? He was the one who was the origin of all knowledge. And the first 2 words that you learn in Ayurveda is Brahma Smritva. He recalled Ayurveda from the existing knowledge around him. He himself recalled, so who created it? Right? There was nobody older than him. So even if you see the mythology, there is no taking credit because I think there was a lot less selfishness. We understood how insignificant our identities are in the mainstream. And in the long run, we considered ourselves a little more, probably our philosophy considered us as souls and rather not just this physical being with this identity today. It might change tomorrow, right? I think the philosophy helped. But then coming back to the career option. Why is this lucrative? All that I have said right now, it points to the way the world is going. It's not where we came from. Now we are going back there now. Which means whether we like it or not, Ayurveda is in. It's in a big way. And it might not go out at all. Because there is more and more scientific evidence pointing to this wisdom being the reason why people are living longer, living healthier, right? Having lesser diseases And probably it's not just, if you see the centenarians that are there, they're in the East, they're not in the West at all. The maximum number of centenarians are in Okinawa, Japan. They were more in ancient India, which the Bharata Khanda was not just confined to what India is in the map today. The entire subcontinent, and there was a lot more focus on quality of life, and also quantity, by the way. And very high quality human being living for a longer time means he contributes better to society. So they had techniques to lengthen a person's lifespan, especially if he was a king or somebody who mattered to the nation. So that is the reason why an Ayurvedic physician used to be living on the king's premises within the palace, because it was very important for that person to advise what he ate when he came back from war. And so it is a huge role he was playing, an Ayurvedic physician was playing in those times. And I think we were much more modernized those days than today we are. If we saw the clothes that people wore, it was more according to region and season. It had nothing to do with religion, or it had it is really comfort. And we were not forced to do something we were not that was not necessary for us to do. Like today we are learning, latest research points out that you're not supposed to suppress any of your natural urges. You want to bring out upper gas or lower gas, you want to burp, you're not supposed to control it. You're not supposed to control your sneezing. You're not supposed to control, sleep, hunger, which are all considered natural urges. Even the sexual urge, for that matter. Because we were a very, very highly evolved society which did not shame us for whatever natural urges we felt. It was only giving us a pointer as to how much is healthy for you to eat or indulge in. That was all it was. And that was, otherwise you suffer, that's all. There is no the head of the nation is not going to come and pounce on you. It was an individual decision to make. If you love your life and your family, you take better care of yourself. The knowledge is out there. I mean, almost every individual in the family, in the society, knew the basics of Ayurveda. It was considered one of the 64 kalas that were taught to every human being. Just like cooking is considered a life skill, driving is considered a life skill, Ayurveda was considered just a life skill you live with. The basics you will grapple with, you will take care of yourself. Only if it goes out of hand will you even go to a physician. That was how evolved we were. And we had no restrictions on exchange of knowledge with other countries either. We were not restrictive at all. If you see our universities, in Pataliputra, in Takshashila, we had so many foreign students coming, learning, teaching us, learning from us and all that. So I think we have to go back and understand that it was a glorious time that we come from, and we have to get rid of inferiority complex. So again, as far as career is concerned, if you feel proud to be a part of this, is why you should choose, even considering joining a course which is going to take the majority of your early youth. Right? There is no point in you having an inferiority complex throughout your life, that you were given something that is second rate.
Yes.
I would advise such people not to come and pollute the ethos of Ayurveda, because these are the people who are making students feel that this is not enough, or that you will be considered backward if you take this as a course.
Confident, basically.
The confidence comes only when you see results, see the right kind of results. See what is happening, you check it out for yourself and then get convinced. Don't get convinced because your professor tells you. You see it, check it out for himself. That is what research is. That is what science is about. So check it out scientifically. There are nutritionists who have told me when I go to hospitals that there is no relationship between diet and this disease. There is no relationship between why are you restricting yogurt in your family member when they have a cold, or when their lungs are having an infection, or when they are having pleurisy. I said, okay, you go home, try it out yourself when you have a cold, have curd and see whether you're feeling better or worse. Don't ask me why. Right? And there is absolutely no necessity for us to import olive oil or cranberry or avocado from another continent to get healthy. There is no reason why nature, even if you do not believe God, why nature would make you will birth you in one country and expect you to have nutrition from another continent. It does not work like that. Right? So I think what we have to see it for is as a marketing strategy to make sure that ingredients that are perceived to be necessary for you are even harder for you to procure, so that the price can be raised on them. And whatever is in your backyard should be good enough for you. Unfortunately, we don't have backyards anymore. right? So we can't grow your vegetables which the way we used to before. So let us make do with whatever is practical today. So when you choose Ayurveda, as far as prospects are concerned, let's come to what you were talking about, the economical aspect, you were talking about the commercial aspect. What can an Ayurvedic physician or a BMS graduate make today?